How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffled Rowlet and welcome back to another video. Now, before we get started, guys, I want to point something really quickly out. My voice is currently really messed up. I was at an event with some friends, and because of that, my voice is messed up because, you know, when you're yelling and you're at an event with friends, you're laughing, yelling, and your voice does get messed up. If you guys have ever experienced that, you know how it is, and you usually always get sick and whatnot, and that's currently what I am. But I still want to make videos for you guys, and I thought, let's just get into it, but I want to address this first. And yeah, that's about all I have to say. So if my voice sounds rusty, you know why. Either way though, today we'll be counting down, guys, the top 10 countries that should be made into regions. Now, this is something I've wanted to do for a while now because it was suggested on my Discord, which will be linked down below, by a viewer known as Kupchno. He suggested it and said, yo, why not do a video like this? It'd be cool to see what countries would be actually cool to see as actual regions in Pokemon. And I thought, why not do it? Now, do understand, guys, I will not be including every country. It's just a top 10 list. And these are just top 10 countries, in my opinion, that would work as, you know, just well as regions based on how they are geography based, and also based on their kind of history and whatnot. I think they will work well. Either way, I hope you guys are ready for this and I hope you will enjoy it. Either way, I guess that's all I gotta say for that, and let's get right into number 10. Number 10. Now, coming at number 10 is going to be Russia, and the reason why you put Russia here is because when you think of Russia, you just really think of like their history and their kind of current like political stance. But if you look past that, you do have a country with really nice geography and great biomes. Like, there's so many different areas in Russia that could really fit well for a huge variety of different Pokemon. Like, there's so many areas that could fit certain Pokemon. You know, a lot of areas with snow and mountains and whatnot that could fit like ice types, a lot of those, and just areas that could fit like, you know, lush forests and whatnot, as well as the fact that it does have stuff like nuclear plants, which you guys know, you know, if you think about Russia, you do think about nuclear weapons and that sort of stuff because of political stuff, of course, but they do have those areas which, well, in a Pokemon game, it would be cool to maybe see something like, you know, a foundation has, or like an, you know, part of the government or whatever has done something, or an evil team has done something like that's polluted a part of the country, or a part of the region rather, that is now done so that certain Pokemon have a certain trait or a certain disease to them, and your goal is to kind of find a solution for that, or find a cure rather to that. So I just thought that could be a cool concept. We've already seen something like that in Johto with the whole like you know, shinies and whatnot, and what Team Rocket did, or whatever, but maybe something like this could work again in a new region based on Russia. We do also have the fact that Russia has a cool folklore that could work well as well, but also if we look past Russia, we have countries around it that could work well as well to supplement it. And also, maybe if you don't take Russia, a country that could be better for suited could be something like Poland or even Ukraine, countries that do have a really great history behind them and just like a really cool folklore and just, you know, things about them that could fit well into a Pokemon story, and also the fact that they do have really nice biomes as well. But if we're going to be focusing on Russia on number 10 here, I do think it is just generally a country with the geography to work well as a region. If you look past the political stances we have in our current present day, the actual geography and the former, or like the current, you know, folklore that exists would work well as an actual region. Either way, that's going to be number 10. Let's go to number 9. Number 9. Now, coming at number 9, we got ourselves Egypt. Now, Egypt may, you know, fit better at a higher spot on this list, but I put it here for reasons. But I want to go through why Egypt actually would work really well as a region, and seriously, it has a huge potential to actually become one probably in the future, considering how well it is set up as a country and how well it would work as a setup for a Pokemon region. Now, one, it's an ancient country. There's a lot of things that, you know, relate to the past, to our past as a human race, to our history that exists there. You have the pyramids, you have the whole, you know, mummy thing going on there, you have like just these gods that were, you know, looked upon, or people that were looked upon as gods back then, you know, in the olden days, and that history still remains there. And what if we got a region based on that, you know, on Egypt itself, that took these aspects and put them into a game where we maybe have, you know, certain Pokemon that were revered as gods, but they weren't really gods or something like that, or, you know, something in that style, like an ancient region, a region that mixes old with new in a really direct way, where we can see it like right in front of us. I think something like that could work, and it would probably be really cool. And also, do not forget, even if Egypt, when you first think about it, the first thing that comes through your head when you think of Egypt is usually sand and pyramids. or mummies, but there is more stuff there. The country has great biomes and just a great geography overall, which could work well in an actual Pokemon region, and I do think it has the potential to become one in the future. But that's going to be our number 9. Let's go to number 8. Number 8. Now, coming at number 8 is going to be a country that was really hard. If I was really wondering if I was going to put this one on the spot, or if I was going to put it on the number 10 spot or the number 9 spot, but it's going to be Canada. And the reason about Canada here is because honestly, it is a country that you don't really think about much in your general day-to-day life, but it's a country with really, really great geography. And that's mainly what I would think of here, and that's why I put it on the spot. Because, I mean, I am basing this on both, you know, countries' lore and their folklore and whatnot, and their history, as well as their geography. But this one will mainly be for your geography. Now, it does have great forests. There's so many cool things about Canada with their forests being lush and beautiful. They have snowy areas. They also have, you know, beautiful warm areas as well. I mean, it is a country that usually when you think about it, it's cold, but it isn't all the time. And it does have areas that are really just warmer and whatnot, and it would work well as a region. Just, you know, with that more like, you know, North American thing to it. Because we have seen areas based in North America, but all those places have usually been warmer or it's been islands, but I want to see, or you know, cities, but I want to see one based more on the, you know, the wood chopper type of thing going on. You know, I mean, more like in the forest, more in, you know, the harsh outside cold environment and whatnot. That sort of thing would be cool, and especially with Canada, that has beautiful, just beautiful nature. It will perfectly work well. So that's why it's going to be on the number 8 spot. Now, guys, let's go to number 7. Number 7. Now, coming up next is going to be Africa on the list, guys. Now, the reason I put Africa here is because, wow, it's a country that hasn't been represented like too much in games when I think about it, especially not games like Pokemon, and that's why I feel like it deserves to be on this list, especially with the kind of nature and whatnot in Africa that you have. When you think about Africa, you have everything from savannas all the way to like jungles and just forests and whatnot. The country, like, really, or not just the country, but like the region, the actual continent has a lot of things to it. And it's, I mean, when it comes to choosing a part of it, I think I'd go with something like Madagascar specifically, because it kind of mixes in all those things in one, and it's also an island, so it'd probably be easier to kind of work around with and whatnot, instead of taking the whole of Africa, because that's a giant continent, you know what I mean? But picking a certain country out, it would be really hard, because, I mean, getting the proper information, the history about each parts of them is really hard. So I think, I mean, I'd probably go with Madagascar, as it probably has the best mixture of all those things in one. So I'd probably go with that. But you could also pick any other part or any country from Africa itself. So I would say definitely go with that. Now, when it comes to Africa, it's mainly those facts, the geography, and also the fact that they have just these lush areas that could have so many new Pokemon to them. I was gonna say Fakemon. New Pokemon to them that could work well. And that's why I feel like it does deserve to be its own region in a future Pokemon game. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Let's go to the next one on the list. Number 6. Now, coming up next is going to be the Balkan countries. Now, the Balkan countries is a mixture of countries, including Bosnia, Croatia, like the countries down there. Like, you can include also stuff like Serbia and those countries. Essentially, this area of the world, that would be a cool place to have, because one, it's a mixture of a lot of different things. One, you have a lot of mountains and high altitude areas, which really would work well. And also, it's a fairly kind of poor and really just a weird, like, you know, area of the world where, I mean, it's like in Europe, but it's a very poor area that doesn't have as much as like the rest of Europe and the rest of the countries around there, you know, that are really rich and, you know, economically are, you know, powerhouses, while the Balkan area has countries that don't really have as much power and aren't as, you know, prevalent and don't have as much of a privilege. So it'd be cool, like, you know, area to kind of base a region kind of in, you know, in a disruptive, you know, state on. I think that could work well as a actual game with a story that could supplement really well. Maybe an evil team is like, you know, taking control of the region and the people actually supporting them because they're tired of their current governments who aren't like caring enough about them, and then mixing in the fact that it has a great, like, the area, actually the whole area there has a great, you know, geography with both beautiful beaches on the, you know, shores and whatnot, but also great and just huge mountains that are just beautiful, and great forests with just beautiful nature. All that mixed into one could work great, but of course all the countries I've mentioned so far, and the ones I'm going to keep mentioning, all do have great environments. So if you do not agree with those, I mean, you can tell me down below in the comments, lads. But I do think that specifically the Balkan region would be cool to see as an actual region, because it does have a story that's really just really huge, and if you take a look at it, you'll realize why. There's a lot of war related stuff there. There's a lot of, like, you know, just poor countries in that area, so it could work well, you know, just in the whole overall theme of a, you know, new game in Pokemon. So either way, that's going to be one of them. Let's go to the next one, lads. Number 5. Now, coming up next is going to be Brazil. Now, Brazil, or really any country around there, like Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, these areas of the world could work well as regions, but I'm going to specifically focus on Brazil because it does have the Amazon and whatnot, which is just rainforests, and holy crap, those would be so cool in a Pokemon game, because we don't really have anything like those in Pokemon games when you think about it. But actual, like, you know, region based on Brazil could have anything from, like, the poor, really poor areas of the country, like, you know, just the poor you know, inner parts of the cities and whatnot, all the way to the rainforests that are lush and beautiful and filled with creatures like, you know, bugs and, you know, really dangerous animals and whatnot. But those dangerous animals could be replaced with dangerous Pokemon instead, so that could really work well. And think about it, the Amazon, like, if we got an equivalent to that, it would be really cool. What's kind of like, you know, creatures in the sea we would have, like what kind of, you know, water Pokemon could be in that kind of, you know, giant flood and whatnot. I think it could work definitely well as a region, and also the fact that it does have a rich history, which would work so cool, and it's such a beautiful synergy with the, you know, overall forests, and specifically the rainforests. I think that would be the strongest points of a Brazil themed or a Brazil based region. The fact that the forests are just so beautiful, man. The rainforests are so huge, and the amount of Pokemon we can get in those will be insane. So that's why it's on this list. Either way, let's go to the next one, lads. Number 4. Now, next up is going to be the Nordic countries. Now, the Nordic countries are essentially your Sweden, your Norway, your Finland, your Denmark, and even Iceland can be included. That these countries all have the sort of same thing going for them, except I think Denmark has a bit of a different thing going for it, because, well, it's just, you know, parts like just different islands and whatnot. But if you just mix all these into one, you have yourself a great, just a beautiful setup for a region. And the reason why is, well, you look at Norway, has lots of mountains. It's really famous for its mountains, and it's just, you know, beautiful areas for skiing and whatnot, or snowboarding, whatever you want to do. It's famous for these things, or just hiking even. Hiking in Norway is like really popular, and people love doing it because the country has beautiful hiking spots. We could, again, we've mentioned mountains again before, but I think out of all the countries we mentioned so far, Norway, Sweden, and these areas have probably the best mountains with these things, because it would work so well. But that's not the only thing, though. They also have a richer history with Vikings and whatnot, because that's where they originated from. So Vikings, maybe, you know, we could get like some kind of callback to like a sort of like, you know, group of warriors that existed in this region before, that used to use Pokemon in a, you know, really brutal way, but they still loved their Pokemon, and they still had, you know, care for them, but they were brutal against their enemies. And now like a new group is resurging from that old like group of people, and they're coming, you know, together and creating like an evil team or something. Or maybe not creating an evil team, it's just like the whole story of the, you know, the whole region and whatnot. But then again, not just that, the overall, like, you know, basis for Sweden and like, you know, Norway and all these ones is the fact that they just have this like feeling to them. When you think of the Nordic countries, you have a feeling about them, and that's what I think would work so well about this sort of region, and that's why it's on the list, lads. Now let's go to the number 3 spot. Number 3. Now, coming at the third spot is going to be the UK. Now, the UK is a country that I was really wondering if I should really have on this list, but then I realized, wait a minute, the UK has a giant history. I mean, let's be honest, if you go all the way back in history, the UK is the catalyst of a lot of things. And, well, I mean, if we look past the fact of, you know, invading and all that sort of stuff, we look past that sort of history, the country does have a great history when it comes to industry and whatnot. And also the fact the country, I mean, if you look past the rain and just the weather being really foggy and whatnot, the countryside is really beautiful. Like, the UK has one of the greatest countrysides with beautiful areas, and honestly, with the history of the country, that would work well. I mean, if you go through the whole of the UK, you know, through England, Wales, Scotland, all the way over into even Ireland, it all is just a great combination of countries that work well as a, you know, coherent area, and they're perfect for a region based on this sort of area. I mean, as for animals and whatnot, I'm not sure like what really the UK has that's really unique to it, but I mean, if we look past that, you know, that area of the world does have just great biomes and great geography. But when it comes to, you know, maybe new Pokemon being created, I'm not sure what could really fit here, other than maybe, you know, something like that could complement the Loch Ness Monster, which would be really cool in my opinion, and also the fact that the area does have a kind of a climate that would fit well for really gloomy Pokemon. I feel like something like, you know, an alternative Ghastly, or like that sort of Ghastly line, something alternative to that, or something in that kind of spectrum. Same way that I mentioned Russia earlier in the video, where Russia has areas with like radioactivity. Maybe, you know, this sort of place could have, you know, something like for example, a history thing, you know, Jack the Ripper and stuff like that, you know, maybe something equivalent to that, like something happening in the region that's based on this thing, and we can have the beautiful cities like, you know, London and these areas that could work really well in a region. Like, these places could have really old, like, buildings made. It would be so perfect for a region. It would be so well set up, especially with the history and the things that exist in it, the culture that exists there. It would work so well. So I do think the UK deserves this spot, lads. I do not think I've mentioned everything about the UK that could fit well here, but I want to know your opinions. What do you think would be something cool that would fit well in here for the UK, and that could be, you know, working well for it as a country? Let me know in the comments down below. But either way, let's go to the next one on the list. Number 2. Now, coming at number 2 is going to be Greece. Now, yes, I put Greece here. The reason why I put Greece is, well, geez, the country literally has so much history. And also, if you just don't think about the history, and I know I said it throughout the whole video, but seriously, Greece has some of the most beautiful, like, constructions ever. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, think of it this way. If you think of Overwatch, if you've ever played Overwatch, think of Ilios. That place is beautiful. Guess what? That sort of place exists in real life. Those sort of places exist in real life, in our real world. And imagine that, those beautiful buildings, those beautiful constructions, in a Pokemon game. It'd be so cool. The only other place I can think of that has that sort of style to it is Sotopolis from Pokemon, you know, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. It's the only area that has that sort of style to it, and I love that, like, city, or whatever you want to call it, town, really, in Pokemon back in those in Generation 3. I love that place. I thought it looked so beautiful, but I never at the time when I was a kid knew what those places were kind of, you know, based on. So imagine getting something like that. It would be insane. Now, we do also already have Hoenn, which is kind of in that style, but it's not like that exactly. It has that sort of style going for it. But imagine we got a full region just on Greece, with just everything about Greece, all the beautiful beaches, all the beautiful buildings, all the beautiful things just relating to it, and also the great history. I mean, Greece is in like the middle of Europe, this area where, you know, there were wars constantly waged back in the days, man. The history here is so lush, and that just put into a freaking region would be insane. The amount of new cool Pokemon we could get would be incredible. So Greece for sure is going to be on number 2 spot, lads. But either way, we're not done for today, lads. We have one more on this list that I want to mention. So let's go to the number 1 spot, ladies and gentlemen. Number 1. Now, coming in at the number 1 spot, guys, is going to be Australia. Yes, now, the reason I put Australia in number 1 spot, guys, is because, wow, Australia has sort of a bit of everything. It's a great part of the world that has beautiful, just beautiful geography. Like, seriously, the history there is kind of a bit different from the other countries I mentioned, but the history works well, and there are, you know, stuff like tribal, you know, people and stuff like that exist in, you know, the bit more of the bush areas and stuff like that. You do also have the fact that it has just so many beautiful island areas around it, and the whole country itself in general doesn't have any snow, so we'd be lacking that factor, but I think that would be fine. I think, you know, we'd be okay without a bit of snow here and there, because, I mean, you know, it's not the end of the world. But if we just look past past that, the country has sort of everything. You know, it's been just so well created in our real world. Like, Australia is just such a perfect spot. It's just a kind of a perfect country in that sense with its geography and kind of its positioning, as well as all the things that exist there. And I feel like it could have just a great variety of different things in it. I mean, think about it. Australia has both, you know, rainforests, beaches, and mountains, and just even more things there. So the amount of Pokemon we can get that fit into all those different areas would be insane. My personal favorite region is Johto. Johto is also kind of a mixture between all those things into one, and getting something like that again would be insane. I would love that. I would not complain, and I would just adore that thing. So that's why I put it on the number 1 spot, lads. Of course, there are more reasons, but I think we're pushing this video a bit too long here, so I hope you guys are fine with that. But either guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm so sorry about my voice and I'm sounding really weird here, but I want to thank you all for watching though, and I hope you guys did enjoy. If there's any country you think would fit well, please leave it down in the comment section below, and I will catch you all in the next video. Either way, I'll catch you then, guys, and bye bye. Thank you so much for watching.